So there you have it, the finished item. It's actually going onto a sailboat, so it's a marine bracket. So it's made out of oak, and a mate of mine's going to put it on his boat, and he wants to finish it himself, so he wants to varnish it. So that's how easy you can make it. You can imagine how difficult that would be to make if he was doing it by hand. Okay, especially with the rebates in here. So you can see how easy it can be done with CNC Router and Vectric Aspire. I'm trying a new format with this video. So you're going to see the machine operating down in one of these bottom corners where it's out of the way, actually doing the job, and I will be putting this together in Vectric Aspire and running all the toolpaths and drawing up the geometry, and you can see what it relates to then, the machine cutting it at the same time. Might be easier to understand maybe. So there you go. Hello again and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do a Vectric Aspire tutorial and a CNC routing tutorial combined. So we're going to draw the part up and cut it. So first of all, this is the opening page then of Vectric Aspire. So I'm going to set up the piece of work. It's a single-sided job, and we're working in millimeters today, so we've got millimeters selected, and our material is 190. That's 190 millimeters by 190. So that's X 190, Y 190. Nice bit of square block material. However, it is a bit of a plank, and I'm going to have a screw actually in the extended material here. Okay, and here, screwed directly into my wasteboard. I always work with the material 0 at the top of the material, or the top of the block. In this case I am choosing the center. Normal routers would choose the front left hand corner here, but this particular job I need it to be in the middle, and this is okay. Mahogany is okay, so I'm going to press OK. So we're going to start to use some of the drawing tools now, and so we're going to pick a circle, and what I want to do here is let's zoom in on this a bit. Let's zoom in on this a little, because my circle needs to be, let me see, 20, 40, 60, 70 millimeters, and you'll notice that the numbers are actually coming where you see the cursor. The numbers tell you exactly where you are. See, 80, that's 40, no, there we go, that's where we want it. 70, 70, the center of the hole, and we want a 8 millimeter hole, so we can come over here, and it's already snapped to 8 millimeter, which is lucky. I always work in diameter mode. I don't have to times anything by 2 then. So it's 70 by 70, and that will put us exactly where we want it onto the material there. So we're going to apply and close. So then we're going to draw another circle, and this time we want this one to be 70. I want this to be 20. What I'm doing is going to draw a slotted hole. 15 millimeters, that's okay. So this needs to be minus 70, minus 40, apply, and it'll jump into the right spot then. Excuse the cat in the background if you can hear him crying for his dinner. So I'm going to close that, and to deselect that you just come anywhere on the grey here and left click. So we'll zoom into that a bit more, and what we're going to go now is to this poly line. If you notice, I have snap turned on. You have these lines that'll sort of come out, and you can turn snap on and off just by going up here. In this case we want snap turned on, and we want snap to there, to here, over to here, and of course it reads out the dimensions all the time that what you're actually doing. And to get rid of that now, and to finish drawing that line, you just right click. Okay, so now what we want to do is to snip away some of the vectors. Any mark or line on your drawing pad here is a vector. So what we need to do is come here to a snipping tool and just snip away at the lines we don't want, and we are left with a slotted hole. So what I need to do now is select that slotted hole, because I need to, well, first of all we're going to offset, because I want it to recess a larger hole on the outer side of this, and we need it to offset, yes, 5 millimeter. There you go. So this hole on the outer side is going to be, we will machine that out for a depth of 10 millimeters, and then this one gets machined all the way through. So the head of the Allen bolt, actually, or hex head bolt, is recessed down in here with a washer on it as well. So we have a slotted hole with a bolt through it, and we're actually making an adjustable plate. So we can close that. Now then, we select the two to select multiple objects like this, so you can just go and select that one, then press down the shift key and select again. So we've selected the two. Now we're going to zoom back out of this, and let's get this into the middle here, so the dog can see the rabbit. Okay, select, shift, select. So now what we're going to do is make an array copy. What I want to do is I want to position 4 of these in identical area on this piece of material. So 80. Oh, I think I know what's going to happen here. What's going to happen if I press copy now, this is going to make an array copy up around this way, and I should show you why. Oh, there you go. And it's also not spread far enough apart. So, and we're going to undo that. In actual fact, this needs to be moved over a little bit. So I'm coming out of this, and I'm moving I want to move this over. So let's zoom in again, and to move it over, just touch your, and all I'm doing is using the arrow keys. I'm coming over to the 60 millimeters, that is the center of this, which is fine, and I actually need to go down a little bit too. The center of this is not exactly where we want it, so I want to move it back down a bit. Top of this hole needs to be. Now, to guide me a little bit more, I want to deselect that a second. So, you know, you can, I want to draw another square here of 150 millimeter by 150. So 150 150. This needs to be 0 and 0. So that's going to put that right in the middle. There it is, as I expected. Now this is the outside of the part that I want, and I was a little unsure of actually where I was going to position this. I'll apply that and close, and this is the actual size of material that I have available. So we're going to put this now in an area that makes sense. Okay, to find out exactly what size that is between there and here, there's a technical way of doing it, and that is by using a ruler. Dimension here to here. What is it? Okay, that's a little bit small. Actually, we should be able to make that a little bigger. Text height, here we go. I think we ought to make that about probably about 3 millimeters. Let's give that a go. So we'll come back out of that and do that again, because that was very, very small. That's better. Okay. So we need to move this. Let's find out where this is first. Okay. So I actually want 12 and 12. So we're going to close that. Let's select. So that, you know, it needs to be sort of near to 12 millimeter. That's good enough. We're talking about a bit of wood here. 11.8. This needs to be increased just slightly. Okay, so I can close that. And what I'm doing here, I'm showing you several different things. I'm actually showing you how to put measurements on your drawings as well. So I just want to go down one slightly, and you know, if you make a mistake with the measurement, you can just highlight it and, you know, sort of cut, and it goes away. There we go. Okay, so this one now is in exactly the position where I want it to be. Okay. So now I need to make 4 copies of these in identical places. So just press the shift, select those 2. Now we want to make a copy. Now the measurement between the center of this one and the center of this one, if this is 150, and of course after working it out, the magic figures are 88.32 or minus 32, and it gives us an exact array of what we require. So we can close that. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, so now we can go along to, or switch to, the machining out. So we're going to do 3 operations here. So first of all, we're going to select all the inner ones. So I got the shift key pressed down. Okay, and in this case it's a pocket, and we're going to select a 6mm end mill. Although it's an 8mm hole, we're going to use a 6mm 2 flute. I don't like to stress. I'm going into quite dense oak. I don't like to stress it too much. Ooh, that would be stressing it. So I think 30 millimeters a second is, well, actually that's probably, I'm going to do 20 millimeters a second. That's quite fast enough, and I usually put the plunge rate at 50% of that. Step over is okay, and we're going to OK that, and we're going to be doing Clyde milling. I always prefer Clyde milling, just seems to give a better cut. Ramp in moves, start off distance 5mm. Always like to use ramp in moves too. Pocket 1 and calculate. Okay. I won't bother with this at the moment. We'll do that at the end. Back to 2D to know what we're choosing. So now we'll choose the outside. Choose the 4 outsides, and it's another pocket. Ooh, let's, before we do this actually, let me just check to see how far the depth was I went in. I actually want to go all the way through, and I didn't really check that. Aha! That's got to be 19 mil. Okay, close. Back to 2D. Another pocket aim operation. So I'm going to be using the same tool, so I'm going to change that to 10mm. Parameters are all still the same. That's okay. Okay. Pocket 2, calculate. Cancel that for the moment. Back to 2D. Now this one, I don't think I've shown you this, anything like this before. Now we're going to be doing a profiling cut. We want to go all the way through. We're going to be using a 6mm. and no, that's a little bit fast. If you go too fast, it could make it a little bit ragged. Although in Mark III you can alter this number. In other words, you can run the whole program a percentage of this. You can run it at 80%, 50%, whatever you feel like. So you've got some control over it. Okay. All the way through. Just have a look. Did I say that right? Yep, that's okay. 2mm depth of pass. Yep, that's fine. Now then, here we go. Add some tabs. Now, well, 4. I want to add the tabs. Okay, so now we want to put the tabs where, well, where we want them. So I'm just going to move that one to there. This one to here. This one to here. And this one to here. Because it's, you know, a fair bit of meat here. You know, the grain will be running in this direction. And I don't like it on the corners. It makes it difficult to, to cut them through and clean them up and what have you. It's much easier to cut them through on the long side. And we're picking up the long grain here and across the grain there and long grain here. So add tabs. Oh, it didn't like that, did it? Okay, if you have this ticked and say add tabs, it will jump back into the corners. And this is something I didn't notice just now. You need to uncheck that if you want to put the tabs where you want them. Okay. Add the tabs, and they're there to stay. Close. Right moves, yeah. 20-degree angle. You know, I'm not even worried about that. Not for this job. I've slowed the plunge rate up enough, and I've got tabs there. This is all okay. So it's profile 1, calculate. Okay. So let's roll this over just a little, and we'll have a look at all of them. Let's slow this down a little. There we go. You can actually see them going through here. Doesn't appear to be going all the way through, do they? So let's have a little look here. I think it's leaving a very, very small skin on the bottom. Well, we're going to check it out now. Okay, let's have a look at our profile. I'm actually going to change that to 20mm. And recalculate. That's correct. This one to 20mm. It's leaving a very, very small skin on the bottom. So I really don't mind going a millimeter into my wasteboard. Okay. That's better. There we go. So having a simulation, you know, it could have left a skin on the actual job. So it's better to sort of rejig things a bit. That's good. That's exactly what we want. There we are. It's exactly what I want. So you can see it's a plate that is adjustable, that's going to be holding something else. So thank you for joining me for this video. Please press like, subscribe, and please call in again and see one of my other videos. So